Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
I think if you don't know how we feel about how that game ended, you aren't watching Calgary Flames hockey enough. The Calgary Flames get jobbed, for lack of a better term, once again in overtime. A terrible call for the second straight Flames overtime. I'm your host, Conrad Krausert. Joining me today is Game Over Networks and SATE Radio and Broadcasting star extraordinaire Unnithan. And Anand, I don't think I've seen a call that bad since, let's call it 3 weeks ago in Detroit.
I think there have been few questionable calls here and there from the officials, especially we remember our recent road trip. There have been few questionable decisions as well. I think a couple days ago against the Columbus Blue Jackets as well, they took a review long time. So I think here is my take. I think a few people have talked about it in social media as well. If it takes you even more than a minute or more than a minute 30 and you don't have a conclusive evidence, either call it, don't make us fans keep waiting, or if you don't have anything conclusive, you overturn it and say you couldn't find anything, because this not only stresses us but also wonders us as well how controversial it's going to be.
I feel for Rick Tulsi and the rest of the ushers because they're going to have a few upset fans leaving the Saddle Dome tonight. But before we go any further, breaking this game and maybe some pardon the interruption music, check out the flagship show of the Game Over Network, which of course is Hyperdrive Hockey. All things hockey across various leagues in many countries. Whatever and wherever it is, Max, Daphne, and Kev have you covered for all of your hockey news with Hyperdrive Hockey. You can find it on the Game Over Network YouTube channel hub or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. If you're listening on Apple Music, please make sure to like, comment, and review. It does help us a ton. You can also check them out over on our wonderful website, thegameovernetwork.com. So I'm seeing a few comments start to flood in. I'm going to try and leave you guys till we get to our overtime segment, but there are some things I'm agreeing with, but we'll bring them into the show a little bit later. Obviously, your final score 4-3, and as is Calgary Flames tradition, it seems, Flames don't start on time and end up trailing 2-0. A power play goal from Zach Bolduc, and then an even strength tally from Robert Thomas within a span of 2 minutes just after halfway through the first period, put the Flames down 2. We'll talk, I think, a little bit about the penalty kill, because it's been, as the kids call it, it's been mid. Like, it's not been good, it's not been bad, it's been pretty stone dead average. But we'll talk about that a little bit later. But the Flames do find a goal before the first is over. Recent call-up, Jacob Pelletier scores his first of the season's assist to Ryan Lomberg and DeMille Maramanov, and that would bring the score. And that was just, let's call it close to 30 seconds, because my math skills aren't that bright, after the Blues made it 2-0. So, took some of the sting off, hey Anand?
Yeah, 100%. I think it took away the pressure from them. Jacob Pelche, welcome back to the NHL. I know he had a rough start. Then he got that injury. He went to the AHL. I think that stint has worked out. He was decent in the game against Columbus Blue Jackets. Now scoring a goal, he'll feel so happy. And I think even a few seconds in, after the Blue Jackets goal, responding, I think it put Flames in a good spot.
Yeah, you could see it all over his face as he's crashing into the boards, how much that goal meant to the young French Canadian. And then the second, only one goal to speak of, the Flames power play stays hot, specifically unit number 1. Matt Scorinato, his 7th of the year, only now trailing, I believe, leading goal scorer Jonathan Huberdeau by 1 goal on the season. So the other young player who's been much maligned and kind of hasn't found his way, gets another goal. Connor Zary and Uyghur draw the assist, the only goal in the second period. And then let's just go through the third, and then I'll ask you for your comments. Pavel Buchnevich, almost a second power play goal, but the Flames had just gotten back to even strength. A pretty lazy jump out of the box from Martin Pospisil, it has to be said. And Braden Bahal kind of cheating up ice a little bit too much led to Buchnevich being basically unattended on the doorstep. But then Mackenzie Uyghur on the 4-on-4. He found his way right between the hash marks and found a way through potentially Canada's number one goaltender. Jordan Binnington tied the game with 7 minutes and 6 seconds elapsed in the third period. No more scoring in regulation. So what did you think of the 60 minutes and specifically that final 20 minutes the Flames played, Anand?
Conrad, I think I texted you off air that I was going to miss parts of the first period just because I was getting home from SAIT after a TV simulation, but I got the third period. I think it's the same consistent theme you've got throughout what they have played so far. The first period, they come out slow out of the gates. They find themselves behind, whether it's 1 down, 2 down today, so they find themselves behind, and then somehow they rally back to surprisingly tie the game, but they haven't unlocked their next challenge as well, scoring 3 goals or more, and that's how we found 3 goals tied at 3 heading into overtime.
Yeah, that 4-goal barrier still sticking around for the Flames. But I thought it was a great effort by Uyghur, and obviously that former Florida Panther connection, Jonathan Huberdeau, getting the assist on that goal. But yeah, the Flames, that third period has been the straw that stirs the drink for the men with the flaming C on their chest. And I thought this might have been the best we've seen them play in a period all year. Like, it was pretty incredible, and for a team that's been as down on their luck as this Flames team has felt at times this year, I felt that there was finally something positive. And then the overtime happened. Colton Parayko scores his 5th goal of the season. Assist to Robert Thomas and former Oiler Dylan Holloway. There was more time spent reviewing footage of this goal than was played in overtime. Like, I get it. We want to have definitive answers to everything in these video reviews. But I think it's time to bring back, let's put them on a shot clock, as you said, and bring back the term inconclusive. I remember when video replay was first introduced, that is a phrase that you heard, let's call it 7 times out of 10. There wasn't enough angles or a proper angle to give you a definitive answer, so the original call made stands. And hey, maybe that led to us getting some things wrong. But when you're standing at and watching that iPad, which is totally a high definition screen, if you're doing that for 6 minutes, even with the help from the Situation Room that we had today, nah, I'll take the inconclusive and be angry about it, rather than no explanation. There was none given by the referee on the ice, just said, call on the play is a good goal. Cool, it took you 6 minutes to figure that out. And I know the Situation Room and NHL PR better be putting out one of the longest winded and best worded posts on X or on their own site that we've ever seen. Because they put out immediately, it was about a 3-paragraph summary of why the Flames had the offside or the too many men call happen. So I'm expecting similar here, because I think this is a more egregious error than that was in the Detroit Red Wings game. And anyone who was here, I know Tokay was here to witness me blowing up at that. I'm trying to not do that today because, let's be honest, I'd be blowing up people's eardrums. But this cannot be the standard of officiating in this league. There is no consistency and no rhyme or reason because the rule book is so colluded. Like,
Sorry, Conrad, can I say something real
go
quick?
ahead.
So, I don't know, for most of our fans watching, I was a cricket fan to begin with in my childhood. What they have developed right now is usually players on the field can take a review to challenge an umpire's decision. And yeah, exactly that sign.
I know
And
the signs. You should be impressed with me.
yeah, proud of you, Conrad. So as soon as the review is taken, you have a third umpire. So basically, the referee who reviews the video, he comes on the microphone right away and explains each step. He takes a look at each step. He'll have an explanation for the audience viewing online, and you can hear his microphone. So I think if NHL can develop something like that, maybe little be a bit more transparent what they're looking at, what they're transparent, rather than just an iPad and two headsets, I would really appreciate it. I know it might be in the works, maybe, but maybe not. But I think I would appreciate that little bit of transparency, what their decision is and how they're coming up with
Because
it.
there is two things that the NHL does not have with its officiating that we're seeing in cricket, we're seeing in baseball, and we're starting to see in the NFL. That is transparency, and that is as well knowing what the consequences are when the wrong call is made. You're seeing MLB umpires getting called out and sent down to the minors, but we don't have that. We don't have any form of... I had a term for it, and now I can't remember. I remember you're paid to speak this language as your first language, Conrad.
Reprimand?
Yeah,
kind
you're
of?
not... but because there's no accountability. There's no accountability for any of these NHL referees. That's the word I was looking for. Because I know we can't be verbally harassing referees at any level and any sport. And NHL referees might get it the worst outside of the MLB from the fans. But if you can't be accountable to the fans, and the fans, number one, you can't be abusive towards referees, and you can't be accountable to the league, then why is there a rule book? Why are we playing this game?
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents, and I just want to see if we want to continue to grow this sport, bring in more fans like you, Anand, like as you said, this is not your first sport of choice, not a sport you grew up watching.
Not at all.
If we want to continue to grow the game, I need to be able to explain this rule to fans who are coming in. Why was that considered a goal? It's like how I have to explain the offside rule to every new fan I take to Cavalry FC, but I've been able to do that. I can't do that with goaltender interference in this league. I can't do that with hand passes, because we saw that earlier, this rule. It bounced off Jonathan Huberdeau's glove in a non-beneficial way. Okay. Like, make the rules make sense and make the rules explainable. Number one. And then make the people who are calling this game, make them accountable in some way. I don't know if that is the public fines that the NFL is starting to announce. Like, it's so frustrating to have been watching this game for nearly 30 years. I'm lucky enough to be part of a family that's in season ticket holders since this team moved from Atlanta. I come from a long line of hockey fans, folks. And I don't think any of them could explain to you why that goal counted. Because we've seen goals called off this season across the NHL for players having their heels in the crease and barely making contact with a goalie. But yet you can shove a goaltender's pad out of the way and tuck the rebound in. And that's not called, number one, a goaltender interference penalty. And let alone two, that goal stands.
And after a long review.
It's exasperating. And I don't think anyone that's here in chat today would argue with that. But let's move on from some of the negativity. I'm sure some of it'll creep its way in. But we'll head to period number 2. And before we do that, hit the period on the graphic. You always guys love hearing me talk about the behind the scenes things. But a reminder, Game Over Network is an independent production focused on community, inclusion, and quality people. If you're interested in supporting us here at the Game Over Network, we have crowdfunding options available in the description of this episode even. Yeah, it's right down there. Right down there. We already have our Patreon page up and live. And starting in the new year, we've heard that we are going to do it in January. The LaRouche crowdfunding campaign will be coming. We'll let you spend your money because we all know this holiday giving time of year is hard on the wallets. We'll let your wallet recover a little bit before we start LaRouche. LaRouche is a similar crowdfunding platform for companies originating in Quebec. If we can raise $15,000 and hit that goal, we'll gain access to some governmental grants to allow us to employ more people. If you have any ideas for what you'd like to see as giveaways from these crowdfunding efforts, like me and Anand learning and watching cricket together, hey, they have that new cricket video game that I don't think you can get technically in Canada, but I'm sure we'd find a way. You can teach me the video game. But if you have any ideas like that, hit us up on Twitter, Blue Sky, Instagram, or our Discord server. Matt, if you're watching, go get your Blue Sky account today, our other co-host. But we are on all social media. If you want to hit us up, do so. Join our Discord if you want to see us going crazy about calls in our public access series. It's what we're gonna get to, and we'd love to have you involved in those conversations. So, period number 2, I think we're gonna dedicate some time to the 2 recent call-ups from the Wranglers, and that being Jacob Peltier and Walker Duer. Pride of, I think it's South Dakota, if my brain's fully correct.
Yep, correct.
But what do you think of the 2 new call-ups? I'll let you go first on this one.
Conrad, I think you're right on cue. There was a question that was just posted for me as well from Arav Singh. Arav, thanks for joining us. He asked basically your thoughts on play of young guys. So the 2 young guys we just talked about, Jacob Elche and Walker Duher, who just got recalled, maybe even last game against the Columbus Blue Jacket. I think they both, first of all, didn't have a great beginning to the season. They were underwhelming.
Well, didn't have a great NHL start.
Yeah, basically.
I'll clarify that because Duer was on fire in the AHL, but go ahead.
Yeah, great. NHL season basically. And then they got sent down to the Wranglers, and then they had a short stint like Mac Coronato. That's another example. Mac Coronato, Jacob Elche, Walker Duher. I think all of them 3 benefited from the stint, and then they came up. Walker Duher doesn't have a goal just yet. Hopefully that will come rebounding soon. But Jacob Elche scored tonight, and I think all 3 have been making net presence around. They have been more visible than their start. So I think I've been pretty impressive of both those guys as well. And then Mac Coronato as well. He's been amazing as well. So overall, the young guns putting in the work. They are showing that offensive upskill we needed. And Jacob Elche with a surprise today right away in his second game. Hopefully he can translate that as well.
So I will talk about Walker Duer and Peltier as well, but we have had clarification. This is courtesy of Wes Gilbertson. The explanation given by the NHL is this. Video review determined that no goaltender interference infraction occurred as St. Louis Colton Parayko made a play on a loose puck in the crease prior to his goal. The decision was made in accordance with Rule 69.7, which states in part that in a rebound situation or where a goalkeeper and attacking players are simultaneously attempting to play a loose puck, whether inside or outside of the crease, incidental contact will be permitted, and any goal that is scored as a result thereof will be allowed. Don't know if I like that ruling, but with that explanation, I at least see where the rule is. However, it puts so much point on the intent of both players. I don't think we're ever going to know what Colton Parayko was trying to do with his stick flexed against the pad of Dan Vladar. That's a huge judgment call to put on referees. It's like half the rule book, though. Half the NHL rule book is written in shades of gray.
Yeah, I think there is too complexity for each of the role and what the player intends to do. I think even this one, me reading it, I had to read it maybe a couple of times to know what they're actually meaning, because I think there is complexity of each of these roles, and I think each situation, even each goaltender part or anything else, has different meanings to it. It depends on how the player is playing it. So I think that's where the confusion comes, the complexity and different terms and different subsections, you want to say, maybe call that, that's involved in the rule book.
Yeah, so that is the official ruling, folks. So sorry for that little bit of a detour. But I will say, I was impressed with Matt Coronado today. I've also been impressed, more so in the Columbus Blue Jackets game that we were both at, with the play of Walker Duehr. However, I think they are playing in each other's roles currently with this Calgary Flames roster. I want to see the pure skill guy, the shoot first mentality that we've been told is Jacob Pelletier, on that second line. I love to see a guy playing alongside Connor Zary, who is maybe the most creative Calgary Flame we've seen since Johnny Gaudreau, have a shoot first guy in Pelletier and a net front presence in Blake Coleman. In my mind, I'm not a coach. I've never been a coach at any level. But in my mind, as a frequent Flames fan, going back to the NHL video games where you have to kind of line up the chemistries, that makes sense to me. But then people will be like, oh, but what about the speed and the tenacity and the grit that Walker Duehr brings? Is that not exactly what you want in a fourth line guy? Is that not what you want on the other side of Ryan Lomberg, who's a pit bull? And then Kevin Rooney, who has played an incredible string of games since his return from injury. And obviously you bawl your eyes out for Justin Kirkland, who done for the year after an ACL surgery. But like, that just seems to make sense in my mind. That I like both players, but I just wonder if the coaching staff has them, the Lego pieces, in the wrong order.
Yeah, I have seen that argument. Yeah, Peltier try him upper, especially what since he showed today. I think it's definitely time to try in an upper line. Duher, yeah, you could slot him to the fourth line. Definitely, they need the fourth line help as well. But yeah, definitely we need to see that, like you said, Conrad, you described net front presence and that shooting mentality. I think that's where you need to play Pelche. So either the second line or third line, even with the Pelche backline Coleman, I think that would work as well. I would like to see that someday. I don't know if it's gonna happen anytime soon. They might keep the same lines how it went today, but I think in the near future I would like to see Pelche climb up a couple spots.
So I'm just looking on X right now, and shout out to Ryan Dietrich, who is the manager of content with the Flames and CSEC. 1 goal, 17:27 time on ice, a 78.57 Corsi 4. In terms of scoring chances, while he was on the ice, 5-0 in favor of the Flames, and high danger chances, generates 3, none against while he's on the ice. So that's just numbers to me that say this is a player who needs to be a little bit higher up the lineup than he is right now. Now, our advanced stats analytics like Corsi and expected goals and high danger shots, or high danger chances, everything? No. Am I going to claim that I know everything that goes into creating an NHL roster? No. I am not Ryan Huska. I am not the brain trust that this ownership and management team has set to guide this ship as we continue this. I don't want to call it a rebuild because I don't know what this season is at this point. But as we continue whatever this 2024 lineup continues, but it just seems to make sense if we are going to continue to pin Blake Coleman and Connor Zary together, that you bring in someone like, whether that's Igor Sharangovich and then you mix Peltier onto that de facto first line, but I actually think he's been good on his line, or whether that is Peltier that comes in. It just seems that slots in a little bit better in the way I want this team to move forward and to build than what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I agree, Conrad. No doubt. Especially if you have a guy that brings so much energy, and then youth injection that we have been talking about, or Huberto's son, if you want to put it in the comedical way. For sure, why not? Try him with Backlund or Coleman, or maybe put him with the son together as well, maybe a Huberto, Zary, Pelche kind of thing. I think that will get maybe Huberto going as well. So multiple different options there. But like you said, I totally agree with you. I would like to see Pelche move spots up.
And I'd love to see Peltier on the power play. Put him on that first unit that's been ticking. See what he can do.
But
Go ahead.
Conrad, I wouldn't change the power play unit just yet. I want to see the click, how it's going. I don't want to change anything yet.
Okay, maybe
but
power
I
play
understand.
2. Maybe power
Okay,
play
power
2.
play 2 probably. Yeah, I can do that. But power play 1, let's take it as it is. It's on a hot streak. I don't want to change anything risky.
That's fair. Speaking of guys that are on a hot streak, let's talk about another young player who's starting to maybe find the shot that he was so renowned for when he was at Harvard. Matt Coronado. As I said, he's bringing back that Matt Scoronado nickname, and he's been kind of talking about how it was a little bit of a tough year for him last year, similar to what happened to Peltier, but really happy to see him starting to click at a better rate. And this is a player that Flames fans have been waiting on. We've also had a bit of trepidation because we all remember the quote unquote how do I want to call this player, because I don't like naming him, neither does Matt. A defenseman that now currently plays for the Rangers but went to Harvard but wasn't drafted by the Rangers. I think people will know who I'm talking about. It's Adam Fox. But but we've all had those scars reopened thinking about, what is Matt Coronado going to be? Is he going to try and force his way out of here? But he's been a soldier. He's been somebody that's worked through a lot of hard times and is now starting to find that shot, starting to find that confidence, because that power play marker, you kind of saw his shoulders started to move. It drew a defender out. He takes a step to the right, if I'm thinking of how angles work correctly, and fires a shot that is, I'd have to say, in the top 10% of the league.
Yeah, 100%. That shot on that goal, that was amazing. He's getting his confidence back once again. HL stints, I think, is working for these players. And Mac Coronado is one of the examples right there. Ever since he has come back, he has looked more faster. He's confident in shooting, and he's around in all the places. Well, wherever he has a shift, he's noticeable. You can name Coronado, and then he's around sniping pucks as well. So I think he's a great sneaky player we have, and he'll have a bright future ahead. Along with Jacob Pelche and Connor Zarian. So I think the youthful line is really looking good. And yeah, it's going to be exciting what we can see from that core group, that Zari, Pelche, even Coronado now. And maybe in the next couple of games, what we see from Duher, maybe we can even add him to the list as well.
Yeah, because Duer was a guy I kind of wrote off. If you look back in the video that we did with Peter Klein in the preseason, I was pretty ready to write Walker Duer off and say it's time to be done with this experiment. But in his brief 2-game sample, he's been proving me wrong. So I think Duer is great. I just wonder if he is truly a middle six guy. We see Arav saying in chat here, he wants Dewar on the top line. So I guess that's kind of different to our opinions, or my opinions at the very least. But that's enough about the forwards. When we come back from this ad message, let's talk about the defenders. And you know what? I'm going to switch the order of our ads a little bit here. What better way to support something in your life than by wearing it as clothing? I'm sorry, Anand, I'm going to have to cover you up for a little bit here.
No worries.
But as you can tell, Game Over's apparel line has dropped. I'm rocking, this is the established design. But as you can see, we've got a couple different pieces of merch. And we also got a couple new ones that aren't even pictured. We have our brand new toque as well as the dad hat and a couple of new hoodie options in the network store. But if you like either the established design, the live and die by the goalie that was just on screen, or if you like the rapid or the retro feel of the retro skater design on the mug, you can see right there. These options are all available. You just have to head on over to thegameovernetwork.com. Up on the top, it says store. And if you click that, you can actually go directly to our store to give you all these flames designed, or head to the general store to check out the new network, cross-network branded toques, dad hats, and some brand new brand-centric hoodies. Remember, Bradley Chalice from Game Over Winnipeg is the designer. And if you want to get your Christmas presents going, use the code GOHolidays. We're offering 15% off on all winter products, which are hoodies and the beanie. So be active until December 25th, and we'll have something new dropping for you on Boxing Day. Let me go and make sure that I don't play our intro all over again. So I'm really good at that. Not hitting the... There we go. Let's get Anand back on screen. There we go, and I didn't even play the intro.
Cool, good job.
Oh, all these tech problems. But let's, as I said, let's look to the back end, because I think this might have been one of the better games we've seen in a long time for Mackenzie Weegar. Obviously not making Team Canada for the Four Nations Clash or whatever they're calling it. I can never remember what the NHL...
Four Nations Face-Off.
Face-Off. I guess that makes sense. It's hockey enough. But yeah, not selected to be one of the 7 D-men. We had Colton Parayko on the other side, who got the game-winning goal that was chosen to represent Team Canada instead. And I'm not saying that's a wrong decision. It certainly seemed to light a fire under Mackenzie Weegar tonight.
Yeah, 100% with that goal, that snipe goal that tied the game 3-3. He had a couple hits. He was playing defensively well as well. I think he was making a case that he wanted to be on the team, and he has been doing that all season as well. Impressive blue line defenseman. He's there to block shots. He's there to snipe goals from wherever you need it, especially from near the blue line. You can get that from him. He's happy to play for the city as well. You've probably seen most of his media interviews that he wants to be part of this team, whether and whatever they go through. So I think he was a good candidate. Once again, I might be biased as a Flames fan or a Flames guy talking to you guys, but I think Vega definitely had the candidate choice on being the player chosen.
Because there's no bias from the fact that the general manager for the Canadian team for this Four Nations face-off is the general manager for the St. Louis Blues, and they've got 2 players on that team. I'm shocked. But yeah, Weegar, one of the best games, and you didn't make mention of this, but 12 assists on the season. I think that's close to the team lead, if not with the team lead in that category. I understand wanting to invite a couple younger guys. Like, this isn't officially a Hockey Canada because it is the Canadian NHL players. But at the same time, is it not a good nod to a player who's never gotten to represent his country before at the NHL level? I think so. But I do understand, in much the same way that Zane Parekh didn't get selected for the World Junior squad. Maybe it was just they felt they had enough of that puck moving, great first pass defenseman, but I think every team can use 9 of those guys if they could get them. Another guy that I think was phenomenal in the game, not just today, but has been very good recently, is Kevin Ball. He often is that unseen guy, but gets the goal last game. His first is a flame, seals the deal. But I thought he was phenomenal today. I've said this amongst my friend group, that being 6'6" can sometimes be a curse, because sometimes you look like a certain Vancouver Canucks defenseman and look like you're the Chaos Giraffe and you're kind of just flailing your limbs everywhere. Kevin Ball seems to be in control. It's not a chaotic motion. Of course, he got spun around a couple times today, and that looked a little bit discombobulated. But for the most part, he's a very controlled player and uses the reach very well to separate man from puck. Obviously, going to talk flawed stats here. A -1 on the game today. 20 minutes and 33 seconds in time on ice, but I thought a very solid performance for Calgary's number 7.
Yeah, 100%. He has been that sneakily, I don't know what term you want to use, like underdog, or maybe
The
even
unspoken, I guess,
the,
maybe.
yeah, unspoken player who doesn't show up on the score sheet as often, but he makes sneakily good plays. Whether, like I said, Conrad, we were at the game day before yesterday against Columbus Blue Jackets. His ceiling goal on the power play, that's a beautiful snipe. That was really good. Then he is making really good moves around the ice. Maybe he has contributed to a few mistakes here and there, but I think that outweighs his what he has done fantastic for the team. And I think that pick that we got from Jacob Markstrom's trade, I think he's a solid player, and what Conroy even look for. I think he fits the age category of what we're looking for, and he's not shy to play. I think he has gotten a great teammate pairing as well. Rasmus Anderson, who is amazing too. So I think he has learned that from him and uses that talent whenever he can.
Yeah, and then I'm going to just have a little bit of a talk about the Pahal and seventh defenseman who gets to rotate in. Obviously, today it was Jake Bean. That pairing's also been very solid. I don't love when it's Brendan Pahal who is out necessarily
Braden
at Braden Pahal, correct? I don't love it when he's the fourth defenseman out when we're short-handed or when we have one of our top defenders in the box. He kind of does that where he looks like he doesn't know where he's supposed to be. And I felt he kind of got out of position today that led to the goal just after the penalty marker, which was the Blues' third goal. But all in all, I think that third pairing, for how fluid that sixth defenseman spot has been, overall has been good enough on a lot of nights. I won't say it's good, but it hasn't necessarily cost us games the way I thought it would.
Yeah, 100%. I think Pahal has claimed that spot, that third
The fifth defenseman, right?
yeah, the fifth defenseman. It's who just rotates out. And I mean, all three have shown their flashes. Let's start with Tyson Berry. I think he can be on the power play sometimes, like not always, but
Yeah.
sometimes. But again, like I said, I don't want to change the power play units
Mm-hmm.
anytime soon, so you keep him out. There is Joel Hanley who got injured for a bit. That I think, what game was it against? Few games ago,
Yeah.
when he, I think, blocked that shot on his hand. I don't know how well he's doing right now. Hopefully everything is all right on that front. But he has been all right, not too eye shiny. And then Jake Bean, he had a fantastic game today. I saw a couple of his great moves as well. So again, I think that third pairing will be like the fifth spot is locked into Pal. It's just who rotates in. I think Bean has the fluidity of right now with how sneakily he has been playing. But again, I wonder in between you might have to definitely give chance to Barry and Hanley.
Yeah, and because that's something I forgot that Hanley had picked up, as they call it in soccer, a bit of a knock when he was on the road trips. So you have to think that's maybe played into getting Jake Bean these last two games. Because when is the next? Who is the Flames' next opponent? Because that's
Dallas Stars on Sunday.
so. I think you probably, if Hanley's not good to go, you probably stick with Bean. So I don't think you want to go toe for toe, trying to outscore a Stars team where we're likely to see Jake Ottinger in net, and we don't have any of the rituals we had back when we faced them in the playoffs. So I would probably think you're likely to see a very similar lineup to what we saw tonight in that game. But as I said, it's maybe not been necessarily, to steal a baseball stat that's made its way into hockey. It's not about wins above replacement level, but it's at the very least been replacement level, which is better than we expected it to be.
I'm gonna ask you a question, Conrad,
Go
here
ahead.
real quick. Talking about lineup changes, I know we saw Andrei Kuzmenko's health is crashed in the two games. Are you bringing him back or are you still sitting?
I hope he enjoys the taste of Saddle Dome popcorn. Is all I will say on that. Um, Look, like the Flames have at the very least scored 3 goals in both of the games that he's been absent. The Flames have looked positive in both the offensive and defensive zones without Andrei Kuzmenko. I'm not in love with the Matt Coronado back check levels sometimes. I'll nitpick that a little bit. But I don't feel that there is a guy that's just out there skating around for his 20 minutes a night and playing on the power play. I am not missing Andrei Kuzmenko right now. And that's a bad sign for the player. Because you have to think he's probably on the trade block if he can't find a way back into this lineup.
Yeah.
Because it's a player you can't afford to just keep having in that popcorn. And he's not somebody you can play down the lineup. He needs to be in the top two lines to be an effective player. And with the puck luck not going his way, and the Flames at the very least playing 2 competitive games without him, there's not a lot of space for him to wiggle his way back onto this roster. And it's not like you're going to bury his contract in the minors. Like, he's got a sizable deal. It really is starting to feel like the Flames are going to have to say, we appreciate your time and what you did for this squad last year. Appreciate what you brought for Jonathan Huberdeau last year. Pat him on the back, retain 50% of his salary, and send him somewhere that's been struggling, whether that's Nashville knocking on the door to see if they need a piece to put alongside Steven Stamkos. I just don't know if there are teams that are blowing the doors off with a trade offer for a player that's been chased out of 2 rosters in the last 3 years.
Yeah, I've been hearing talks about maybe Kuzmenko back to Russia, but we'll see how that's.
But that comes with a whole swack of potential legal issues, like going on unconditional waivers for a buyout. That looks awful. So, like, what? Are the Flames stuck with him to the end of the year?
We don't know. Time will tell.
Is someone willing to take a flyer and send a 4th to the Flames to try and see if there's any juice left in that? I guess that's kind of a good question to ask if you're one of the other 31 teams in this league. Because I even think with injuries, I'd rather call up Marty Pospisil. that's where we're at.
Yeah.
And that's not a great place to be as a professional athlete. Like, I'm sure that's not great for his mental health. I'm sure hearing people like us talk about it on a daily basis about how good this roster has looked without him, that's probably not very good for a player whose confidence has already been shaken a couple times. Uh, it's tough, man. Like, I feel for him as a human being,
True. Yeah.
but as a
Yeah, I
fan
love
of this
his personality and all, but his play level, he needs to improve 100%.
but how do you improve if you're not playing? And that's the question at the end of the day. Do you try say to one of these guys you just called up, like, do you say to Walker, hey, we're gonna pull you for one and see how Kuzmenko does, to see if the rest of the team's positivity can drag him back in the fight? That's kind of what you have to do if you're gonna try and get that asset back in motion. But I'm gonna ask now if you have any additional questions. I know there's a couple quotes that I'm gonna come back in through the chat, and we'll have a little bit of a talk about if we haven't already. But before we do that, obviously us here over on Game Over have you covered after the game. But in order to get ready for your favorite sport, Graham Mossman of Game Over Edmonton, he does a 10-minute show called Game Over Hockey, or Game On Hockey rather. Short, 7 to 10-minute video every day that talks not necessarily about the hardest hitting stories of the day, but the feel good stuff too. Maybe something to laugh at as well. I know we talked about how the Flames did absolutely phenomenal on the Johnny Gaudreau tributes, and he was certainly right on that. But that is Monday through Friday, and you can catch it on the Game Over Network YouTube channel or in podcast form, which you can find at thegameovernetwork.com. And we swear Game On is coming back onto this channel. We're still working on the formatting and how we really want to run that. Please be patient with us. Me and Anand missed that show a lot. It will come back to our market and every other. Just give us a few more weeks. But let's go through a couple comments here. Matt C. still should have put them away in the third. Say what you will about Jordan Binnington, about his temper in the past, how he is the best of the worst of Canadian goaltenders, is what I heard on a podcast today. He's the best Canada's got, and he showed why in moments in that game tonight. Especially in that third period when the Flames were pressing, he made a few big stops. You got to give credit where credit's due sometimes, and sometimes that's even to your least favorite guy on maybe the NHL if you're not a fan of goaltenders with personality.
Yeah, Jordan Binnington has shown his talent as well. Once again, rightfully, the scouting staff would have seen what he has done, or the general manager who picked him. Jordan Binnington was probably the primary choice, and that's why they went with him. And like you said, Conrad, he made a couple key saves that put St. Louis Blues right in the game within the 3-3 in overtime. And once again, the Flames have a shyness right now, at least. But we have seen not being able to score the 4+ goals or even 3+ goals, I guess. That's one other factor. So hopefully that can change sometime soon. But again, Jordan Binnington has been good as well. But I know he has had some bad stretches as well. It happens with all goaltenders. You can make all the saves, but at the times you need them, they show up. Even Dan Blada was the same case today. He showed up when we needed to. But again, once again, coming out of the gate slow, especially the first and second goal I heard about, he could have maybe stopped that. But again, later on, when you get adjusted to the game level, the ice, then you might start stopping those good shots as well.
A bad call by the refs in OT. Ref/situation room needs to explain why that was not called back. We did go through that. It is available. Wes Gilbertson on X or on Blue Sky. I believe he's on there as well. Clearly goaltender interference, I believe. The NHL not a league. Yeah, that's a common one by a certain personality on a network that this show used to be on is harped on too. That this is not a league. It's kind of like Whose Line Is It Anyway? Did you ever watch Whose Line Is It Anyway? The comedy show where the points are made up and they don't matter.
I
Sometimes,
don't think so.
yeah, points are made up and they don't matter. It sometimes feels like that way with the rule book. The rules are made up and it doesn't matter. It's written on toilet paper. We covered that from Arav. Matt C with the incidental. Yeah, I'm in agreement with that. The Sharky Zari Coronado. I want to see that line. Would love to see Peltz with Bax and Coleman. I joke about this with my friend who I went to the game with, Abid. It almost feels like there's been like a full-on divorce, that something bad must have happened between Backlund and Coleman. Like, it seems like they're not on the ice together at all. Like we joked in the Columbus game. You saw them both on the ice when the net was empty. And we joked, Mom and Dad aren't fighting anymore. Like, it feels like it's a divorce at this point. Like, I don't know what's happened in the locker room, or if Ryan Huska just says, you guys are too valuable to have together. But it seems like that's not something we're going to see again in the near future.
Yeah, I have been thinking about that, but again, I don't know if it's to try something new again. But we'll wait and see. We still have Talche and Doha that just slotted in. We don't know if that will change once again. Like, we want to see Palche in a top spot. So can that backline Coleman conversation come back? But again, until then, I think you'll see them separated till the what you call near future, I guess.
Who knows? Maybe they'll be back together after the Four Nations face off.
Maybe. We'll see.
That's my hope. And then I think we should put Dewar on the top line. Good energy player. Is an energy player what you want on your first line? I don't necessarily think so. We've had that conversation. Carl N.E., thank you for showing up to the green text Game Over. I don't know if that's a subscriber emote from another channel. It's probably a gaming channel thing. But thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you. I especially appreciate the Mickey Mouse Death Wheel as your Facebook, or your not Facebook profile picture, your YouTube profile picture. For those of you who don't know, it's a Ferris wheel, but the carts, they swing back and forth at Disneyland. Fans of
Actually,
Disneyland.
Conrad, I just checked the chat and you can actually use the green text using emoji.
That's cool. We've got a free emoji. Or looks like the Vancouver, but
There you go.
all right. But yeah, Tokay number 1. This will probably be our last point of the night. Is Flames do have a bit of a tough schedule heading forward after this one. Do have a few game days off before they take on the Stars on Sunday. Anand and Matt will be joining you for that one. After that, on Tuesday, it's the Preds coming to town with me and Matt. And then kind of a bit of a murderer's row for a few games. We have the Lightning, the Panthers, and then the Bruins on Thursday, Saturday, and then Tuesday, respectively. Fun guest for the Bruins. I'll keep that one under wraps for now and on. Then you'll get the crossover on the 19th with the Senators, which, as we saw, the Flames need to not take 7 penalties. Then the Blackhawks, Sharks, Golden Knights, and Canucks round out 2024. So until you really hit that Senators game, that's a lot of... Oh, the Bruins too, depending on which Bruins team shows up. Could be a little bit of a tough slog here in the short term for your Calgary Flames. Of course... Oh, I left the period on the wrong thing. Oh, well.
Oh, I didn't notice that as well. My bad.
Pick it up and on. But I think we'll give another couple of seconds here. But someone we didn't talk about yet today was Dan Vladar. Obviously, not the performance he would have wanted, and probably still fuming about the call in overtime, but another solid performance from Dan Vladar. Obviously, the stats don't really show it. Coming down with a sub 900 after the Blues didn't have a shot effectively for the first or middle 9 minutes of the second or the third period rather. But I think all in all a pretty good night for Calgary's current number one, as we've heard Dustin Wolf battling a little bit of illness. So to Wolfie, hope you feel better. Hopefully by Sunday, whatever he is under the weather with has been resolved. Going once, going twice, gone. We'll put a bow on this one. So for the Game Over Network, my name's Conrad Krausert, Anand Unnithan joining me once again. As I said, Anand and Matt will be here on Sunday. The Flames look to maintain their undefeated in regulation streak when they return to the ice. Oh, that's actually a road game, so it doesn't even continue the streak. But they continue to look to maintain their momentum. We'll be back.
Snap their road trip losing streak.
Yeah, that's pretty important too. But we will see you then. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a wonderful, snowy, potentially, weekend.